Hey, welcome to today's conversation. I'm your host, Deidre Sirianni, and today we're going to be talking about the difference between visibility and profitability. So, this is a business segment. We're going to be talking about it because this is a really important conversation to have if you are an author, if you're a speaker, if you're a coach, if you're someone that wants to get into those spaces, and or if you are an entrepreneur, a business owner. And this is something that I've made some mistakes with along the way and had some ideas around how certain opportunities could really open up my business that really didn't because I was missing specific things in my strategy behind the visibility. So a lot of people think that when I get a TEDx, everyone's going to know my name, or when I write a book, people are just going to run into a big line and I'm going to have a huge waiting list of people that want to work with me. This can be true if you have the right strategy, but the truth is, if you are doing a talk on stage, if you're on a podcast, if you get a TEDx or write a book, those are all great things to build exposure and get your name out there, but without the proper marketing and strategy behind them, they are just, how can I say, they're kind of flash in the pan. There are things that you've done. There's things that you could check off your list of I did this, I did this, I did this, but don't necessarily equal growth in business or growth in your community and movement if you don't have the right things in place. So I want to jam a little bit about that with you today because when I first started to think about doing a TEDx, and maybe you're listening right now and you have a message inside of you that you would love to land a TEDx, you'd love to get on stage, you'd love to get your message out there because TED is a great platform. It's an amazing platform. And I had this idea that if I got a TEDx, everyone would know about my work and it would really expand my business. And I want to share openly what a TEDx did for me, what a book did for me, and what a lot of these visibility pieces have done for me, but also the strategy and the other pieces that need to be in your business if you really want to leverage these opportunities for growth, because otherwise they're just these fun things that you do, which most people kind of go blindly in. They deliver a TEDx, they write a book, and then it's kind of like, now what do I do with it? And I want to have this conversation because it comes up a lot in community with those who want to write books, get on stages, podcasts, and have way more eyeballs on their business. So if that is you, then you are listening to the right episode. All right, so when I did my TEDx, one of the things that I did my TEDx on was trauma. So this was five plus years ago. I was super passionate about trauma. I had this awakening experience with healing a trauma that I did not feel was impacting me anymore. I did a lot of empowerment work around it. And I was at that stage of healing where I was like, I am so empowered. I am so over that. I am so beyond the thing that happened. And then I was in this training with one of my mentors at the time. And I learned and got certified in a really powerful healing modality around healing and completing trauma. It's called a trauma release. And I had this experience and I was like, I need to talk about trauma because all of this wisdom was revealed to me from that experience. And so I went on to do a TEDx called Unhealed Trauma, the Root Cause of All Suffering. And so I delivered my talk, I shared vulnerably on stage, and the TEDx had reached a lot of people. I had people in the audience live who really resonated with it. And I was super vulnerable. I shared a story around a big trauma that I had when I was 19 years old and how it impacted me. And you may have heard me talk a little bit about that on the show so far in a previous episode. So how this landed was, it was great for people that were live. It really resonated with them. And then once the episode went live, or not the episode, but once the TEDx went live on the internet, people started to watch and comment. And now the TEDx has reached about, I think 140,000 people have watched it. And if you are someone who is wanting to get out there, you might be like, wow, that's so many people. And I thought that was a lot of people. I thought that was going to do a lot of things for my career and business. And it did and it didn't. So a TEDx is a great thing to do because what it does is it shows that you're serious about your message, that you're putting yourself out there, and you are going on a platform that has the opportunity to reach a bunch of people. Once your TEDx goes live, it's your responsibility to share it, to market it, to put it out there so that it reaches new audiences. And the next part of having a TEDx or some sort of piece of content or experience where you have gone out there on some platform that is, maybe you were featured in a magazine, maybe you're on a TEDx, maybe you're on a podcast, whatever the thing is, the most important thing is how you leverage that in your marketing to bring in more people into your work, right? That's the purpose of doing a lot of this visibility work in our business, is so that we are able to attract more people into our offers, into our world of magic and transformation, and bring people on a journey of deeper transformation with us. So a TEDx on its own is cool, it's something that you can say that you did and that I did. And the work that really comes with it is, how is this TEDx, how is this asset or this opportunity that I've taken, that you've taken, how can you leverage that to bring in more opportunities? So I want to talk a little bit about TEDx specifically. I want to talk a little bit about magazines, contributions, being a contributor for magazines, as well as speaking opportunities and other things that I've learned over the past 10 years of being an entrepreneur and being in this space, and really sharing the difference between visibility and profitability, because they are two different things. And a lot of entrepreneurs will get some visibility but are not leveraging it and connecting to their business, and then it's just a lost opportunity. So we don't want that for you. So a way to leverage a TEDx, if this is something that you have done or would like to do, would be to really think about, how can this TEDx open up other doors, other opportunities for speaking on stages, for contributing into other people's communities, and also being featured in the media and also on the internet. How can this be something that brings a snowball effect into other parts of my business and attracts more people to me? So whenever you do a TEDx, something that you can think of is, how can this be connected to an offer or something that you would like to be offering in your business? And so one of the ways that you can leverage a TEDx is definitely sharing it on social media. You can promote it. You can talk about your TEDx and how you are open to other speaking opportunities on this topic. And you can create a speaker page on your website and start sharing your message, sharing your gifts to different platforms like podcasts and also stages and different organizations that are aligned with your message, and also attaching that TEDx as, hey, here's a sample of my work. Here's what people are saying who watched it. Like from my TEDx, I have a ton of different comments of what resonated and all of that. That's social proof. And so social proof is important because it shows people that you know what you're doing and that you are someone potentially worth investing in having on their platform, which could be a podcast, similar to this conversation right now, or another stage, a corporate stage, and or being having somebody or people hire you to teach them on that area of expertise. So we always want to think of how the visibility is connected to your business. And then when you are promoting and sharing about your TEDx, after sharing about, the opportunity, what it was like for you, and the key pieces that you shared, and inviting people to watch it, after that you can have some sort of promotional campaign or plan to share about how you're excited to be on other stages, how you're excited to be on other podcasts, and start putting yourself out there into opportunities so that you can be seen as a speaker for organizations to book. And there's different platforms for these types of things. I talk about this in my business accelerator and in our business containers of how to pitch yourself to podcasts, how to get on stages, and all of that. But really looking at these opportunities of visibility to connect to your business. All right, the next thing, and I just want to say one more thing around that for a minute, because in the arena of having a TEDx, and things may have changed. It was 5 years ago that I did my TEDx, so it's very possible things have changed, but there are specific rules when delivering a TEDx of things that you can say on stage and things that you cannot say on stage. And if you say certain things on stage and you're trying to promote your business and you're doing business plugs and all of that, like hinting at your business, and you are trying to invite people into experiences or programs or whatever the thing is, your TEDx will not go online. So it's really important that when you are doing a TEDx to make sure that you're following the rules, the guidelines, and all of those things. So that won't be something where you can directly tell people the next step. But of course, if your TEDx is out there, if you're marketing, if you're sharing it, if you're doing all the things to get it out there, and from that, people are coming to your page, your website, and you're getting on more stages and podcasts, those are different places where you can share more about how people can work with you or book you for more speaking events. So taking that TEDx and using it for an opportunity to promote potentially what you're up to, what you're creating, what you're excited about, and also open yourself up to other speaking opportunities on stages and podcasts is huge. So now let's talk a little bit about stages. So again, we're talking about the difference between visibility and profitability. And visibility in business does not mean it will be profitable. I'll give you a perfect example. So years ago, I was speaking at a friend's event, and there was probably about 300 to 400 people in the room. And I just got back from traveling. I was like in Bali. I was in Florida. I basically had a really small suitcase. And what was in the suitcase? It was bikinis, dresses, sparkly outfits, and sandals. Like, it was a small suitcase of just the essentials for a nomadic girl who was traveling and just having fun, basically. Okay. And I think I was just in Costa Rica speaking at a festival the week before I was speaking on the stage. So just to give you an idea of where I was at, I was definitely in my having fun, going with the flow. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So I was speaking at my friend's event in Canada, and this was right before the pandemic, everything happened and started to shut down. So I'm happy I got to travel and be in a bunch of different places for a while. So I was on stage. I gave an amazing talk. There were like many people were crying. People were hugging me after. It was super transformational. And the organizer came up to me and said, "Wow, that was like such a powerful experience. We felt angels in the room. We felt some magical spiritual stuff happening." And I get off stage, and I remember, I think on stage, like mentioning something along the lines of, "Hey, I have these programs," or I mentioned what I do. From that event, there were 400 people there. Again, people were crying, people were having huge awakening experiences. I was taking people through a process. I made 0 sales from that opportunity. And then there were other speakers who were definitely a lot more strategic, had been in the game, and I say the game, in the speaking space for quite a bit longer, probably, a couple extra decades to me. And they would get off stage and there would be a lineup of people wanting to purchase from them. And I remember after that event, this is about 5 years ago, I was like, I need to stop. I need to stop going with the flow. I need to stop going into, I'm an intuitive and I can't be boxed in. I'm an intuitive and I need to do and say whatever I feel called to say. And I want to talk a little bit about this, and we're probably going to be going some layers deep in this conversation, but like, hey, that's why we're here anyways, right? That's what we're here to do. And so I got off that stage, and it was like a day or two after, and I was just like, I don't understand how I was able to take people through such a powerful experience, and people just absolutely loved what I was doing, but no one was called to work with me after. This is so crazy. And then I had to get real with myself and realize that I was unwilling to follow a system or a structure that would help my talk and my work be digestible for people, and also give them enough information so that they were ready to potentially take another step with me. And this isn't, I want to be really clear on this. This isn't not giving value from stage. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I am talking about is giving value, but also knowing that when there's a system and a way, a process, a proven system to give a ton of value in a talk, but also share your expertise in a way where if people are ready to take another level of transformation, they will take that step and work with you. That's what I'm talking about. And I had to get real with myself and say, okay, I'm going with the flow. I didn't want to follow any structures. I gave an amazing transformational talk, but it didn't result in a growth in my business from that experience. And it was still felt really good. I loved what I did. I'm so happy people had transformations, and it was, all of these experiences from people there. But I missed out on an opportunity to expand my community and my growth in my business because I was in the go with the flow D and intuitive version of me. And so for those of you that don't know a ton about me, I woke up to my spiritual gifts when I was 20, and I'm very intuitive, and it's probably my greatest gift that I have. I'm able to see, feel, and experience what's going on with people very quickly. And I love ad-libbing. I love going on the cuffs and just really like feeling in the moment and delivering and speaking and sharing from that space. And it's super helpful. It's really great. I'm doing that right now. I have some notes of what I'm talking about today, but for the most part, I'm just authentically sharing what is coming up in this space. However, when it comes to being on a platform like somebody else's podcast or somebody else's stage, and it's the first time that audience is getting to know you, and maybe you have 30 minutes or an hour to speak, it's important that those 60 minutes really count. It's important to have a story where people really understand the core of who you are and you build that trust with them, and also that you give them tangible things that they can receive and also feel and digest, where they're like, oh, you are the expert in this, and I'm ready to take the next step if in fact they are ready to. There will be people in the audience that will just love what you're saying, and they'll write their notes and they'll go and do the things right away. And then there's a lot of people that are like, you know what, I need some support with those next steps. And that's the power of having a proven system that works in your business. If you are going on podcasts, if you're going on stages, and if you are getting in front of audiences of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, multiple hundreds of people, that works for you, grows your business, and converts. So I wasn't doing that at the time. I did have some systems that I knew, but I was resistant to them. I was in my spiritual, I don't even want to say spiritual era, but I was in the don't box me in. I don't want to have any structure. I'm going to go with the flow, and I'm going to do what feels good. And that was great, but it didn't equal profits in my business, which is one of the reasons why in my business accelerator, when I work with my clients, we actually work on creating this system in their business so that they are properly leveraging opportunities of visibility. Because now when I'm on stages and on podcasts, it's regularly converting into more and more clients and growth. And that is really where the transformation happens for people who are listening, who are watching you on stage, on a podcast, or on some sort of platform. It's in the work after the talk of where they're actually implementing the work. It's where they're building the new habits. It's where they're showing up and they're in your transformational containers. And that is the power of having strategy and structures that work in all of these pieces if you are wanting to become more visible in your business, or maybe you are visible in your business, but it's not growing your business. It's really about having that strategy. And if you want to learn more about that, you can always reach out and we can book a call, or you can see our programs and see what might be the right fit for you. So visibility doesn't equal profitability. So it's important to know what platforms you're on, and also know like who is the audience, right? I've spoken in front of some audiences before where I'm like, this is not my ideal client. And it's very obvious that it's not my ideal client, right? So it's important to do some research on the platforms that you are invited on, learn a little bit about who's listening, who's in the audience, what are they all about, and also have a strategy and a system that works and converts and grows your impact, grows your business. Okay, so we're still talking about visibility, so we're going to do that a little bit more, and then profitability, and then we're going to wrap up today's conversation around visibility versus profitability, because I have worked with people who have a very large audience on social media, 50, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 followers, but their business isn't sustainable. They're not regularly converting their audience because they haven't learned the business of visibility. Okay, so those are two different things, and I just want to like bring that home one more time. So another thing I want to talk about before we get into the next piece here is I really want to talk about this pain for visibility. And what I mean by pain for visibility and status, we could say, is on a lot of platforms, a lot of magazines, there are people that will find you on the internet, they'll find you on LinkedIn, they'll find you on Instagram, they'll find you wherever, and they will say, hey, we'd love to feature you as the top, 10 coaches voted by Yahoo in North America. Okay, something like that. And you only have to pay $5,000. I highly recommend never buying, never purchasing to be featured in a magazine. I worked with someone in PR years ago when I was starting to write for different men's magazines. And one of the things she said is once you start to pay for media in that way, it can really negatively impact your brand and also whether or not people see you as being legit. And what I mean by that is there are certain platforms that I know that if someone's on them, they've paid to get on the platform. And I'm not here to diss anyone. That's not what this is about, but this is more about like removing the veil and sharing a little bit about what's going on with some of these visibility pieces with magazines. And so if I know that someone's saying they're the top coach voted and blah, 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 and I know that they paid for it, well, to me, I'm like, well, that's not even real, right? And when your audience and when people out there start to see things that you're claiming and they know that you've paid for them, but it's not actually real, legit grit of showing up and being the best, it really just doesn't look great. I personally don't think it looks great. And one of my highest values is integrity and transparency. So for me, I would hate for somebody to go and do that and not miss out on some really amazing opportunities because they don't look professional or they don't look like they're in full integrity with how they market themselves. Marketing is something where you want to share, what you're up to, what you're great at, give value and all of that. But when you start paying to be featured in media, specifically claiming that you're the top 10 coach voted by whatever, or you've been featured in, I won't say the name of the magazine, but there's a few that come to mind right now, but you've paid for them. It may look nice to people who are unaware that you've paid for those features, but the people that do know, it's not necessarily going to open up some of those doors for you. So I advise against it because someone that I worked with years ago mentioned that it's an absolute no-no, and I totally understand why. I have never paid to be featured in any magazine that I've been on, any podcast that I've been on, or anything like that. Every single piece of exposure I've had in that way has been from a space of alignment and being invited, and from there being an energetic frequency, an energetic match, and them genuinely wanting to talk about my business. And it's so cool when you can just let go of trying to pay to play and just be yourself and show up and do good work and do the things like write a book, maybe start a podcast, get on podcasts, do a TEDx, talking about the things that are really important to you, and then using those marketing pieces to give value to your audience, but also show people that you're really doing the work and really putting yourself out there. So shifting gears a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about having a book. This is one of those episodes where it's just like, we're just going to talk about a bunch of different things on visibility versus profitability. And maybe I'll go deeper on some of these in future episodes if you want to learn more about it. So the next piece is having a book. So in the back here, if you are watching over YouTube, you'll see that my book there, Turn Your Light On, is there. So I wrote this book, Turn Your Light On, a couple of years ago. It came out a couple of years ago. And it was essentially the body of the work that I have been teaching for years. It's about waking up to who you are, who you're meant to be, releasing healing trauma, getting out of your own way so that you can shine your light, so that you can get your message out there, so that you can live in your gifts, live in your purpose, and stop sabotaging and getting in your own way. So having a book, that was a whole initiation process. And again, I'll talk about that potentially in another episode. For those of you that are considering writing a book, maybe you have written a bit of a book, but you haven't published it. Or maybe those of you who have written a book, but are just curious a little bit about my story and some of the things that I learned along the way. So when I wrote this book, I didn't really know everything about the book industry, and I still have lots to learn. I'm always learning about multiple pieces of business and life, and it's really interesting. So I wrote that book, and essentially it was broken down in a way where it was very much aligned and connected to the work that I do in the world. It's very much connected to a signature program that I have, and also an event that I do. So the book is actually a great stepping stone into my work. That's a low ticket offer. You purchase the book for like $15 or $20, and people are able to experience my work and then potentially take the next step of working with me, which could be attending a live event. It could be purchasing my program. It could be hiring me. It could be joining my business accelerator. Who knows? But the book, the process of writing the book was one piece. But the next piece is really about, where is the book taking people? What is the promise? And after you're done the book, what do people do? What is the next step? So when you are creating a book, it's important to think, if you are looking for, growing your business and your impact, which you probably are if you're watching this, is how is this connected to my business? And then when you have a book, one of the things that I loved about having my book come out is there's all these opportunities to get on stages, to get on podcasts, and to talk about the book. But one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of authors make, and a lot of misconceptions that some of us might have getting into this space, is that if I have a book, people are just going to find it and they're going to buy it. No, it's definitely something that you want to promote, that you want to be putting out there, that you want to be marketing, and also that isn't going to make you money, that you're not going to get rich selling your book. Okay, so I'm going to just remove the veil there and just let you know, the book is an opportunity to give people more access to your work, to position you in a way where it's like, hey, I'm taking what I'm doing seriously. I'm sharing my world. I'm sharing my work in a deeper, more accessible way with you. And it's a great marketing tool to get out there and start sharing on podcasts and stages and opening up different conversations. And when people read the book, it's a stepping stone to work with you. It could be a part of your funnel, a stepping stone to people working with you in the future, and a good opportunity to put yourself out there. But again, writing a book just on its own and like publishing it on Amazon or whatever is not going to make you rich, unless you have a lot of different things in place and a lot of money to put behind it. That is what I have been learning as I have some bigger goals with my next book that I wrote about a year ago. So a few different pieces we've covered. We talked about TEDx, getting a TEDx. It's a great opportunity. It's a great thing to do. And it's like, how is that connected to your business? How can you leverage that for speaking opportunities, growing your business, your programs, getting on shows, all of that. We also talked a little bit about the book, like, what does having a book do for you? Well, it shows again that you are someone that's serious in your industry. You're creating opportunities for people to consume your work in a different way, and it's a great marketing tool. And then we also talked about being featured in magazines and all of these other pieces, which are really great, but do not be purchasing any kind of statement that says you are the top coach or top expert in whatever industry when you paid to get that placement, because it can actually work against you and it's just not worth doing. When you're doing great work and you're putting yourself out there, opportunities will come to you. And then the last piece that we talked about a few minutes ago is being on stage, being on podcasts, and learning a system that helps you really share your story, share share your expertise, and also maximizes those opportunities so that those audiences, when you're on other people's podcasts or you're on stage, turn into potential customers and people that are coming into your business and jumping into your transformational containers. So to wrap up today's episode, I know I shared a lot, but I just wanted to dive into this because something earlier this week triggered this thought. I was like, I need to have this conversation because I was in conversation with someone who was talking about a TEDx, and I could just sense that they thought that because they do a TEDx, it's going to mean all these things in their business. And I wanted to share this advice with you too, if you are considering doing any of those pieces around visibility, or if you already have and you're looking for ways to really accelerate it and grow it out into the world in a bigger way and make it work for you. So this conversation is around visibility versus profitability. It's always important to have strategy and pieces that connect your business to the spaces of visibility so that you can start to build momentum and grow your business from a place of authority, but also authenticity and truth. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any comments or questions and you are watching this on YouTube, feel free to comment below. If you are loving the show, I'd love for you to write a review. And if you write a review and you take a snapshot and you email it to us at hello@radicallyaligned.com, we will send you a copy of my book, Turn Your Light On, for you to have as a thank you for writing a review. And we look forward to diving into the next conversation with you. And again, if you have any comments or questions or things that really resonated from this episode, feel free to email us at hello@radicallyaligned.com. Or if you're here on YouTube watching this video, comment below. And we'd love to hear any questions that you have, what resonated, and all of that. And that will support us in creating future episodes for you. Big love.